The cryptocurrency Bitcoin has set another record, breaking above the $12,000 mark for the first time. Now compare that to where it was at the beginning of the year, when it was trading at about $1,000 per token. Since then, it's been growing constantly, albeit with a few regular fluctuations. Here's just a quick reminder of how Bitcoin works. Right, now, before you all get mining online, hold your horses until we've talked to Craig Earlham. He's the senior market analyst at the foreign exchange company Oanda. Craig, welcome to RT. People were saying it was getting to ridiculous levels when Bitcoin was in the low thousands. Now it's broken the 12,000 barrier. How far can this go, and what's the rise down to?
Well, I think that's the most difficult question to answer with regards to Bitcoin, because if you'd asked someone a year ago how much further it can go, then those forecasting 2,000 would have been seen as being unrealistic, and yet here we are at 12,000. So the problem that we've got with Bitcoin right now, and the thing that makes it so difficult to value, is that we've got a combination of factors really driving the price right now. I think one, of course, is the fundamental improvements, and you can't argue the fact that these have existed, including recently the launching of Bitcoin futures on the CBOE and CME exchanges, which is due to come into force in the next 2 weeks. But the other's the role of the speculator in this, and it's quite clear that there's a lot of speculation happening right now in Bitcoin. People have seen the meteoric rise, which has happened over the last 12 months in particular, and they want a piece of the action. And the problem is that makes this even harder to value in terms of where it can go next year, because these bubbles can last a long time if this is one, but when it bursts, it can be quite disastrous.
But its meteoric rise hasn't exactly been without problems either, has it? It's had some spectacular falls along the way too.
It has had some spectacular falls along the way, but I don't think we've seen anything compared to what could possibly happen at some point in the future. And again, I'm not suggesting that it will certainly happen in the future, and I can't even tell you where it will reach before this happens, because as we've seen so often with bubbles, and if this is one, then they can go on a lot longer than people can remain solvent if you're planning to, for example, go against the trend. The problem that we have here is, like I say, this is not a real thing here. This is a cryptocurrency. This is just an online virtual currency, and therefore, and with it being such new technology and not being overly widely adopted at this stage, it's very difficult to price, and that's why I think the speculative aspect of this is the most concerning.
Yeah, and although for a lot of people it's still going to be considered more of an online casino game rather than anything of real value, it's still shaking things up in currency markets, isn't it?
The underlying technology is sound, and I think that's an important point here. There are a number of cryptocurrencies available as well, and that's another important point. Many people right now have only heard of Bitcoin, but there's many others. There's Ripple, there's Ethereum, among hundreds of others. And I think this is another important point here. While Bitcoin is the most well-known cryptocurrency, it doesn't necessarily suggest that it's going to last. At one stage, Napster was the most well-known music streaming service, and then along came many others, including Spotify, which now is the market leader. So I think what we have seen here over the last 10 years or so is the opening up of a new form of exchange, and that's why more people are most excited about the blockchain technology behind Bitcoin more so than Bitcoin itself. But right now, you wouldn't guess that, considering the price.
So then you think there's a danger, because there are several different types of cryptocurrencies doing the rounds, that one day Bitcoin might just disappear?
There's certainly a possibility if the technology that's underlying it gets improved and gets adopted by an alternative cryptocurrency, then there's certainly the potential for Bitcoin to disappear one day. We've seen a number of what's called forks, where people take the technology, improve upon it, or what they believe to be improving upon it, and create an alternative cryptocurrency. For example, Bitcoin Cash is one of these. There's a number of other forks planned even for later on this month. There's a number of other cryptocurrencies that go by a different name, and we're yet to see governments and regulators truly get involved in this. And this is where going to be one of the biggest challenges for something like Bitcoin, because the bigger it gets, the bigger a problem it becomes for governments, and this is something that they can't control like they can their own currencies.
Yeah, I don't know if you're mining for any Bitcoins. I still have trouble remembering PIN numbers. For now, though, Craig Erlam from Oanda, thanks very much for joining us.